Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here. In this video, I've got some great emulation news for you. We're talking about PlayStation 2, Nintendo Switch, and the Mister. Let's get started. All hail the blue cube. We'll kick things off here talking about PlayStation 2 emulation on Android with AetherSX2. AetherSX2 just got a really huge update. As always, I'll leave a link to absolutely everything in the description below. We're going over this changelog at a high level, but it's very well written and there's a ton of information here. Now, we've covered a lot of this information in previous videos, but now it's kind of making its way into one brand new release. This release isn't yet available on the Google Play Store, at least at the time of filming, but it will eventually be available on the testing channel and then make its way to the mainline build on the Play Store. So in the event that you want to check this update out before it hits the Google Play Store, I'll drop a link to the official website in the description below and you can pick up the APK right from here. As of this video, it's 12.894 version 1.2-2632. Now, the very first thing in this update is arguably the most talked about thing, and that's the addition of fractional scaling options, which is absolutely huge for a couple of different reasons. Reason number one, if you're trying to make your games look a little bit better without hurting performance too much, well, now you can. Instead of jumping from 1 to 2 times native graphics, you can go up in fractions, for example 1.25, 1.5, and 1.75. And it also helps out performance if you want to make your games look worse. Because yes, you can make your games look worse, it's easier on your CPU and you might squeak out a few extra frames per second. So for those of you who aren't making the graphics worse and decreasing the resolution scale, if you're increasing it here, there's also a performance update that may squeak out a few extra frames per second when you're upscaling. For example, here's the before and after using 3 times native resolution. On top of that, there's been some frame buffer improvements which will help out certain games like Test Drive, where it was rendering half the screen before and now should be fixed. Now, earlier on when AetherSX2 started their Patreon, one of their goals was to acquire a Pixel 6 to help out performance, and that's coming to fruition here. So they've been able to improve performance on a Pixel 6 by a considerable margin. And for those wondering, the Pixel 6 uses a Mali GPU. They still have a ton of work to do for Mali, but if you do have a Mali GPU in your device, make sure to turn on threaded presentation. They say you can even double your frame rates in some games. On top of that, they've added in per game controller configuration. So if you like your controller configured a certain way for a certain game and a certain way for a different game, well, now you can do that. For touchscreen users, there's a brand new tap to hold option. I've gone over this one in previous videos, but if you wanted to learn how to use it, I guess just check out one of those videos. But how it works is basically once you set it up, you tap the button and it remains actively held until you tap it again. And they've also added in the ability to bind multiple sources to a single controller bind point. They've also beefed up the look of the save state menu and also the overall theming to make things look a little bit better. And the last couple of things here I'm highlighting, you can increase the size of the on-screen display, for example your FPS counter. And they've also added in an audio latency option. And a fun fact here, AetherSX2 gives back to the community. They upstream their changes back to PSX2 to help out that emulator as well. AetherSX2 has been absolutely killing it, and I can't wait to see what Talrith does next. And AetherSX2 is getting so popular that some people are even creating AetherSX2 characters, and interesting ones at that. Next up here, we're talking about Nintendo Switch emulation on PC with Ryujinx. And this update is actually pretty huge, but it's not the main version of Ryujinx. This update is specifically for the LDN version of Ryujinx. It's a special build of Ryujinx where LDN stands for Subscribe to Mr. Sujano. It's also the version that's designed for online multiplayer. It is free, it's available on their Patreon page, and I'll drop a link to it in the description below. Version 2.5 just released. They state here that LDN version 2.5 includes all of the enhancements and changes to Ryujinx since November of 2021. There's a bunch of changes, more than they've listed, but the main ones here, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe version 2.1.0 is now compatible with local wireless. Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak is now compatible with local wireless. Pokemon Legends Arceus is now compatible with local wireless. Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl boot up a lot faster. Anisotropic filtering set to custom values will no longer cause graphical bugs. Animal Crossing New Horizons no longer requires ignore missing services on newer versions. Scanning an amiibo no longer slows down some games. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate no longer stutters on menus. Pokemon saves will no longer corrupt on Linux. Splatoon 2 version 5.5.0 now runs on Linux. Firmware version 14.0.0 Plus no longer cause issues. Motion controls are now more reliable, and various performance and stability improvements. And this special Subscribe to Mr. Sujano build is available right on their Patreon page in Windows and Linux formats. Now, if you end up picking up the LDN version of Ryujinx, rest assured you can have it side by side with your mainline version and there shouldn't be any issue. Unless you install them to the exact same directory. I wouldn't recommend doing that, just put them in different folders. You'll also notice here that the LDN version of Ryujinx is green and pink, hence why my floaty controllers in the background are kind of the same color. On my PC, I've got the mainline and LDN versions of Ryujinx up and running at the exact same time, and there is no issue. On top of that here, the LDN version, we can see there is some additional information in the main header. And on the LDN version, if you click options, go down to settings, there's a brand new multiplayer tab that's not available in the mainline version. On top of that, I think I've covered this one in previous videos, but if you head to ldn.ryujinx.org, it's an extremely helpful website. It'll let you know who's online and what games people are currently playing and what games are open. While this might not be as good as couch co-op, it's definitely the next best thing. And if you don't like random people in your house, then this is the best thing. Next up here, we're talking about the brand new Sega Genesis Mini 2, and pre-orders just surfaced on Amazon, as well as their entire games list. We covered this one in the past. This one has the 6-button controller as opposed to the 3-button one. And the games list here is very interesting. There's a total of 60 games overall. One of my personal favorites is on here, Super Street Fighter 2, The New Challengers. And there's also a list of games they say introducing. I'm not sure if many of you have played these before. If you have, let me know in the comments below. And if you're interested in this new Sega Genesis Mini, let me know in the comments below. It's going for $100. Last up here, we've got a very quick update about the Mr. FPGA. If you've got a Mr. and you like PlayStation games, you might like this update. The main PSX core has received a bunch of fixes here and some new features. The new features are the option for fixed CD speed, the optional hack to limit CD read speed, and add gamma feature from framework. And the games that are affected by the fixes here: Dino Crisis 2, Suikoden, I think I said that one right, Vagrant Story, GTA, Transformers, Micro Machines, and Rugrats. And if you want to learn more about the Mr., if you don't have one, or if you have one and want to talk with some like-minded individuals or possibly learn some information about it, I'll drop a link to the Mr. Discord in the description below, and I do recommend checking it out. It's a niche community in an already niche community. Anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. Let me know your thoughts about anything we talked about today in the comments below, whether it's AetherSX2, Ryujinx, the Mr. FPGA, or even that brand new Sega Genesis Mini. Are you going to pick one up? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos, don't tempt fate, save your state.